Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play ChäoS Head. In the last episode, Takumi was surprised that the new transfer student, Kozue Orehara, actually built up the courage to speak to him face to face, given the fact of how nervous he was in being greeted to the other students in Takumi's homeroom. Unfortunately for Takumi, his own nervousness would be more than apparent due to the fact that Rimi Sakihata, the so-called demon girl, is in fact not only a classmate of Takumi's, she also sits right behind him as well, which is why he never sees her at the front of the class. Now, admittedly, there have been days in which Rimi herself has been absent from Suume Academy, although never nearly to the extent of Takumi's. But unfortunately for Takumi, this revelation has caused his panic attacks to go into overdrive, and thus he has bolted all the way from his classroom up here to the school roof, which is definitely the last place that one would want to head to because it is essentially a dead end. Unless you have a helicopter or you can magically fly, it is never a good place to run to. And as the old adage goes, what comes up must eventually come down. This is especially true for Takumi in this situation, given the circumstances. I ran up the stairs without looking to either side, and came out on the empty roof. It looked as though she hadn't chased me. To be fair, why would she? Yeah, it was homeroom, and it is also still morning. Even so, I couldn't let myself feel relieved yet, and so I hugged my knees and hid for some time in the shadows, in broad daylight. My knees were trembling. I couldn't believe I'd succeeded in running in this condition. It showed how desperate I'd been. That desperation is definitely going to cost you there, in the long run. I was sick of this reality. And, on a side note, another clear blue sky, although lined with clouds. The D-sword I'd gone out of my way to buy hadn't been useful in any capacity. I certainly couldn't bring it to school, not with how much it'd stand out here. It's the first bit of common sense that you've actually said all day. She caught me off guard. 2 days ago, when I heard from Mizumi-kun that Rimi was our classmate, I had figured he'd either been making it up on the spot or had merely been imagining things, and on both accounts, you were wrong. But she had really become my classmate, quote unquote, or maybe she was always there to begin with and you just never bothered to pay attention. Not that you've ever paid attention to anyone else in the class thus far. It would almost definitely prove useless to ponder how she had managed to slip in. Maybe she was there from the beginning. Because she was a demon. She could easily do things of which humans were incapable. Looks like Takumi's sticking to his pet theory there. What little good that will do him. Maybe she'd brainwash my whole class. No, maybe even all the teachers at school. That feat would actually be quite impressive. Then again, it is a school after all, so... But I digress. I couldn't go to the hospital anymore, and now I couldn't go to school. Yua was at Art Cafe and Shogun had appeared online. To be fair, Takumi, we haven't seen neither hide nor hair of Yua or Shogun for quite some time now. She and her underlings were clearly venturing closer and closer to me, and they were constantly launching psychological attacks at me. I think those attacks are entirely of your own psychological doing. Maybe it'd be better to stop leaving my base. Reality was too full of dangers and enemies. I'm not sure a shipping container on the roof of a building is any safer than being on the school roof, personally, but that's just my take on things. They stirred me up and threatened my peaceful lifestyle, when all I wanted to do was live quietly. I gazed up at the blue sky, which floated there carelessly as if the wind blew, or as the wind blew white clouds across it. It would be so wonderful if I could become one of those clouds. Unfortunately, that's not how clouds work. But it's a nice thought. 3 hours passed, or as SpongeBob SquarePants would put it, 3 hours later. The whole time, I'd stayed curled up in the same place, unmoving. For now, I didn't sense anyone else coming up. Unfortunately, staying up here for any longer is ultimately going to pose a very serious problem for Takumi Nishijo. Although, to be fair, the view up here is quite exquisite, and just listening to the sounds of traffic faintly on the wind there is actually quite peaceful, at least from a distance. If we were actually much closer, the sound of traffic could be quite noisy, for obvious reasons. Here I had at last been freed from my strain. The problem was what came after this, and it's a good thing that you've come to that conclusion now rather than later. During breaks, students would, without doubt, come up here to eat their lunches. That was why making a break for it in the middle of fourth period and returning to my base at top speed was the best option. I'd mess up my minimum attendance shift chart, but I possessed not a trace of the courage needed to return to the classroom where the demon girl lay in wait. Do not think, however, Takumi, that such an absence will go unnoticed or unmarked by Suume Academy's faculty members. That is the price you pay. I decided not to worry about the fact that I'd left my bag in the classroom. That is also less good. Without any valuables, we would definitely be without a paddle. Whatever the case, all I had in there were textbooks. My wallet, my key, and anything else important would be in my uniform's pockets. Probably. I certainly hope so, because again, if they're there and not here, we are in some serious trouble. Growing uneasy, I searched through my pockets. Wallet, key, cell phone, they were all where they should be. Well, that's one crisis averted. Not the only crisis. That was when I remembered that someone called me. I'd been pretty frantic at the time, though not as much as when Rimi talked to me. Curious that you would suddenly remember that fact now of all times, but we did receive a call from an unknown sender, which, technically speaking, unless it just so happened to be a one of those pesky telecommunications salespeople that litter the world, should very much be an impossibility.
一体誰だ
But in any event, somebody does know Takumi's phone number. I couldn't think of anyone who would call me besides my family, or again, telemarketers. Nanami seemed like the most probable. She didn't think about whether she might end up causing me trouble. However, as you previously noted, there is a certain detail that should be apparent if Nanami was the one who phoned you, and that detail was conspicuously absent from that phone call. The only other people I told this number to, come to think of it, I told it to those detectives. If it had been one of them, I probably should have answered. Which is actually pretty true if that were the case. However, I think they would probably pay you a visit in person if you refused to pick up. And anyway, all that talk about sending officers to my base had ended up going unsettled. caller's phone number was displayed on the LCD screen. Almost said LED there, which I just did. It appeared not to be Nanami. When I looked more closely, I saw that I had a new voicemail. Whoever sent the call send another. I had the vague feeling that I might or might not have seen this number before. Just in case, I checked the history of calls. Yeah, this is the same number. 03X733X991. Only 5 calls were displayed there. And Takumi's curiosity has definitely peaked up. It is that time once again, adventurers, to venture down the rabbit hole of delusions. So first and foremost, positive thinking. We'll go with the green ECG. In other words, since the time when I first bought the cell phone, only these 5 calls had reached it. Plus 3 of them were from Nanami. Now, as for the remaining 2, which were probably from this number, the one from a little earlier and the one from 5 days ago were displayed as numbers instead of names, since I hadn't been recorded in my address book. It was the same number, 03X733X991. If they bothered to leave a message, it might be someone who very much wanted to convey something to me. Whether or not it's worth hearing is entirely up to us. For now, I might as well listen to it.
あのさ、私だけど。別にあんたの声が聞きたいから電話したわけじゃないんだからね。なんとなく暇だったからとかその程度の理由だから。わかった？
That is actually a voice that I do not recognize. At least I don't think I do.
でもクラスが別になって最近話す機会が少なくなったね。あんた私のことどう思ってるわけ？例えばさ、私に告ってみようとか思わないわけ？別にあんたに告られたからって私は嬉しくもなんともないんだからね。そもそも私が OK する保証は万に一つぐらいしかないんだし。でもさ、行動しなくちゃ何も始まらないって思わない？とにかくあんたは試しに告ってみること。わかった？じゃあ今日の放課後伝説の木の下で待ってるから。急いで来なさいよ。来なかったら承知しないんだからね。
Well, that was a very tsundere-esque phone call, but hey, it could happen. Nah, it couldn't. No, lol, lol. Yeah, especially considering the fact that we've never encountered anyone with that particular voice. So, no dice on that one, since after all it was a delusion. But then we already knew that. Now we're back again at the crossroads of fate, and this time we're going to go down the negative delusion path. Let's see how badly this goes, and it's probably going to end very badly, since this, of course, is a negative delusion. But here we go anyway. But now I might as well listen to it.
楠木優愛です。
Different from the positive delusion.
ごめんなさい。突然お電話しちゃって。 うしてもお話ししたいことがあって、セイラちゃんの新しいフィギュア、私も買いました。西条くんのおかげです。ありがとうございました。
This is actually turning right out so far, but not holding my breath that it will end the way that it started. If this was reality, it might actually be an interesting twist.
とっても可愛いんですけど、ちょっとエッチですね。買うときすごく恥ずかしかったです。
If only things played out like this in reality.
そうそう、今週のブラチュー見ました？すごい展開でしたね。私見ながらずっとドキドキしちゃって。この多重人格者、あなたが殺したの。人殺し。
Yeah, this is more like it.
真犯人、罪を償いなさい。逃がさないから。その目、誰の目？
Well, that wasn't as too bad as I'd hoped. But then again, given the way you reacted in reality the last time we saw her, she pretty much behaved the exact same way. Which leads me to believe, actually, that Yua herself might be calling might be the proverbial pot calling the kettle black. That is, she's accusing Takumi of being a multiple personality freak. Yes, I know she did that in the delusion, but she believes Takumi has multiple personalities, but the same logic could also apply to her, given her sudden mood swing there. It was no more than my own delusion, but it terrified me, because that's how your previous encounter happened in reality. That is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play Chaos Head, and when we return, adventurers, we're actually going to go back to the crossroads of fate yet again, and this time actually give the mysterious phone number a call, which is probably going to lead to terrible things. As always, until next we meet.